You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 237. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Quick reminder, if you haven't left a review for How to Get On Podcasts on Amazon, please do me a big favor. Hit the 5 stars. I greatly appreciate it. And if you leave a review, chances are I will promote it on Instagram and tag you as a thank you. Let's get to today's episode. It is all about living, despite the fact that we're talking about the book You Only Die Once by Jodi Wellman. I found Jodi on Instagram and I fell in love with her instantly. Why? Because she talks about the fact that we're all going to die. And that sounds so morbid, right? And yet I'm saying it with a smile on my face because it is the truth. And if we look at it as we only have this finite amount of time on earth and in this life to do what we're meant to do, then why are we not living every day to its fullest potential? Why are we staying in jobs that we don't enjoy, that don't make us excited to jump out of bed? Why are we waiting to take that trip that we want to go across the world, or we want to go to that island and look at the gorgeous ocean and snorkel with the fish? Why are we waiting? Why? We don't have that many Mondays left. And Jodi dives into why it is that we wait. Why are we not grabbing the bull by the horns and going for it? And so I was very excited when she said yes to come on the show and have this amazing conversation with me. I am so excited for every single one of you to not only meet Jodi, but to really look forward to living out each and every Monday that you have left. Hi, Jodi.
Hello, Michelle. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. And you know what? I now realize I just forgot because I had another call. I was supposed to calculate how many Mondays I have left while I'm talking to you. So
Oh,
I'm going to calculate that while you introduce yourself to
okay.
everybody.
You can pull out the calculator. I will see steam coming out of your ears. This is okay. There is actually a page on my website that does the math for you, but that's fine. Well, hello by intro. I'm Jodi Wellman, and I started 4,000 Mondays, and I'm the author of You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets.
I love
Because
it.
I've discussed, we roughly get 4,000 Mondays. That's what you're calculating right now is how many you have left.
Yes. And I think it's even less than I was hoping. I think we're down to 1933.2.
Ooh, I like the decimals. That shows accuracy.
Yeah. I thought I was at like 2080, but maybe is my life expectancy 80.1?
You know what? Yours is actually 83.
Okay, good.
So
Good.
you just
So that's
bought
why I'm a little
yourself
off.
time.
Yes. Yes. So we're closer to 2000 friends.
What are you going to do with all those extra Mondays?
Talk to you.
Okay. Well, there we go. There's a good 400 down the drain.
Okay, so we're going to talk about death in like the happiest way possible. Your book, You'll Only Die Once, I devoured it. I finished it, and I can confidently, I finished it this morning before talking to you. And it is so refreshing because there's always been a part of me that's like, I'm scared to die because I feel like I'm going to miss out on something. And then my mother's very Catholic and she's like, but death is wonderful. Like that is where you will cross over and you will meet God. And I'm like, but I don't really want, like, can you just talk to me in real life? Like, I'm not ready for that. And yet the book is, yes, it's about dying, but it's about so much more. It's about living. It really is.
Oh, what a cool, perfect summary. Yes. And like, by the way, my dad's super Catholic and also believes like, oh, but the afterlife. I'm like, I don't know about that. What about the current life? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And can we use the idea and the consistent, persistent, and annoying, yes, but reminder that we're unfortunately mortal, as drab as that sounds and crappy, it's like, but can't we use that as the kick in the butt in order to live better? And of course, as you know, you've read 352 pages worth. It's like, I believe the answer is yes. Like that's the thing we need in order to take life seriously. Otherwise, we just take it for granted. Like I take it for granted and I write this stuff. I speak about this shit every week. And like I need the reminder too. Like, do you find that you are a take it for granted type? Like, how do you live your life typically?
Yeah, sometimes for sure. And just like the call I was on just before, and I said, I need to stop volunteering for stuff that I don't want to, and to chase more of what I desire.
Oh.
And I'm the yes queen. Jesus almighty. Yeah. I shared that I just finished my 35th week of the school year volunteering in the classroom. And every week it was from 1 to 2 hours. Plus, there was
Oh.
time spent at home cutting socks and counting beans, like literally. Do I want to do that? No, no, no. I
Oh.
enjoyed getting to know all of the children in my son's classroom, but I really don't need to know them.
Well, and you could have done that after like 3 weeks and been like, "Peace
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Socks
Yeah.
out." Yeah.
So it's really taking for granted of, yeah, I spent that was over 35 hours. That was a full freaking week of time of what else could I have been doing? And I know that there's people that are going to be like, "Oh, well, that's so wonderful. You were in the classroom." Yes, but I don't have to
Well,
be.
exactly. Yeah, two things can be true at the same time, but the predominant one that you want to have happen is like, I would like that time back to use in different ways that are more aligned with whether it's what you value or what brings you joy or just not doing that. And yeah, I love how you said as a no, well, you said you're the yes queen. I might be the yes princess, just a heads up. Like I understand you fully, part of the same kingdom. But then when you use the words where you described not wanting to do this, how cool was it that you used the word no 3 times? You said, no, no, no. It's like you're taking a stand.
Yeah.
So how, like, have you gracefully exited?
Yes, and I started gracefully exiting after my pulmonary embolism. That was when I did the, I'm going to resign from this board. I'm going to do this, and the feedback was, "Can't you just do this part? Can't you just do?" No, no, I can't. Cannot do just that because it's never just that.
Yes. Yeah, the just is with an asterisk. So you're the classic, like you're the poster child that in one of the chapters in the book I talk about wake up calls,
Mhm.
and how people who've had a brush with death, it's like you know things we don't. And I'm super envious of you that you've had this chance to really take life seriously, which is really my goal in life now. It's to have like these mini wake up calls again and again, but unfortunately without having to have like an almost embolism kill you,
Yeah,
right?
because I wouldn't really recommend it. It's pretty painful, and then I had a thrombectomy, so it's like one level up from, okay, you're almost dying because you have these clots, but, oh, by the way, there's one that we think could get your heart. So we're gonna put you under, and hopefully that doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
And then I woke up in the middle of the anesthesia, in the middle of the thing. So I woke up hearing them take the clot out from my groin, and I went, "Did y'all get it?" And I think they almost crapped their pants because I
I like
wasn't
how you had a
supposed to be
sense of
awake.
humor
Yeah. And I go,
even in the
"Can you
midst.
keep it so I can see it on the way out?"
Wow. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Was it like a suction sound?
There was something, yeah, because they sucked it out. So the doctor, I've shared this story before. So sorry, listeners. The doctor who I do not trust at all and have let him know had come to me the day before. He said, "You need to have this thrombectomy. We're going to go in through your groin and suck out the clot because it's in your interior vena cava. That's what it's threatening to go to your
Mm,
heart." And I said, "What are
mm,
the risks?" "Death." And I
mm.
went, this is it. Like, that is it. Like, are you kidding me?" And that's when I had my freak out moment. Like, I didn't freak out over the blood clots. I didn't freak out that I was 5 days in the hospital. I was like, "Oh my God. So tomorrow I have to get this out because I could die if it's in, but I could also die on the operating table. What the hell do I do?" And I started moving money because I didn't know what else to do. I moved money around from my business account to the personal account. So that way my husband wouldn't have to wait however long probate would be to get it. And then the next day before the procedure, he came in, he goes, I got to thinking about what you said. Death is pretty risky. So we're going to go in through your throat and we're going to put a filter in. So that way, if it does escape, the filter will stop it. And so we can keep sucking until it comes out.
Thanks for me helping coach you.
Yes,
How to not
doctor.
kill me.
Yeah, doctor.
Wow.
So don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Don't do
Lesson
that
learned
part.
for many
No.
levels. Well, the point around connecting the dots a little bit, and you may not have, it may not be linear for you, I don't know, but this relationship between having a near death situation, like you having, there could be no clearer, you are a ticking time bomb example in life than any other, even though I'd like to look at all of us like we're all ticking time bombs. Like you never, it's just a matter of time. It might be 40 more years to go or 40 more minutes. I'm going to knock on wood right here. Everybody's safe. But the research is so clear that for people like you, typically, when you've had that jostling, and I know like psychologists call it that roar of awakening, which I love the language around that. There's usually this refinement of what matters. Okay, so that's good. It's like I know now I want to pursue this more than something else. But there's also an equal and sometimes greater experience of like abandoning the stuff that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like being less willing, but it sounds like sometimes our old habits die hard, right? Like we may still be inclined to say yes, no matter what. But I'm curious for you, did you have an experience where you were like, enough of that bullshit, or I'm not going to sweat as much of the small stuff, or how did it affect you?
Yeah, I was always outspoken. I've become more outspoken as I've gotten older, as I've had kids, but it's become even more so where I'm like, no, you are wrong. You are mean and it won't be tolerated to grown adults.
Oh,
And so not as many people like me, but I'm okay with that because I'm like, you're not being nice, period.
yeah.
So I'm going
Yeah.
to stand up for the people who you're not being nice to and we'll let you know, especially when we're in our 40s. Like, come on, be nice, grow up.
Exactly. Why are you being such a bully?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
being a
And,
jerk.
and the world that we live in, politics and, it's now one side against the other side. And I don't tolerate it. Like I
Well,
don't, because I feel like if it used to be there were Republicans and Democrats. Great, fine. But now it's Trumpers. And like, that's the one camp. It's not, oh, I'm a Republican. No, I'm a Trumper.
yeah.
And those are the ones that get me, that I'm like, that means that you're a bunch of other things and they're not kind.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. Unique, very specific branding there. You just even used the word tolerate, which, you would know from reading the book and we kind of know each other. Like tolerate is a word that makes me like my antenna go up. And tolerate, because it could be about how in your context, like I have a value that I believe in, like fairness or some kind of like belonging or justice, and like you doing this thing that's infringing on it, I'm going to speak up. So it sounds like you are no longer willing to tolerate that on a value perspective. And then I also look at tolerating in ways too where we end up, because we adapt so quickly to stuff, we end up just kind of like settling, into either a job that is no longer interesting or even sane. Same thing about a relationship, or like even where you live, or even just like your day-to-day routine of sorts. Like we just sort of tolerate a lot. And it's like that metaphor, what is it? Like if you're like a frog in water and someone's slowly turning up the heat, you don't really know all of a sudden that you're boiling. Oh, and then sorry, you're dead. Until like, cause it's just such a slow, gradual process. And so this to me is like the urgency of like, life is so precious. And wouldn't it just be a shame if we spent any amount of time tolerating something? Whether it's a friendship that's no longer really feeling mutually beneficial, or a hairdo that is no longer like I'm thinking I need some changes. Like, or the things in our lives where we're like, we don't have to settle anymore. And again, that needing a little bit of the urgency of a deadline of like, I have 1,820, actually as of today, yesterday, 1,819 Mondays left. Like I no longer want to be stuck in this situation or just indifferent to the situation. That's what it is too. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like a, I'll just land here for a while. Why? We may not be here next year.
I love the way you put that because my husband says, he goes, people like to take the path of least resistance. And that's why they tolerate or they just stay quiet and just allow everything to happen.
It's easier, right? Like, this is the part where I will lament for just a quick second. Like all this discussion again about, oh my God, we're dying. It's a deadline. We better get on with living and like live, live, live. Philosophically, people would agree. But when it comes down to the way in which we think, okay, me living more might mean, going and trying some new like dance lessons or something that might be like I love to learn and maybe, but that's going to take a little bit of effort after a long workday. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I get this. And that's also part of the reason why I often find myself defaulting to Netflix most nights of the week, right? And so we have to acknowledge, yeah, it is going to take a little bit of effort and it is going to take some resources that sometimes don't feel like you have them. But then I think that's why we have to imagine, fast forward, deathbed scenario. Are you going to regret that you didn't go and learn how to do the tango? Or are you going to regret that, like most of us would say, oh, I wished I had participated more, rather than giving in to that path of least resistance that I like your husband's wording. Like, it's just because it is easier. I wish life was easier, but a life well lived does take a wee bit of planning and effort, and then it's always worth it, right?
Yes. And you're in my head nonstop now. It's so funny because even the littlest things, I'll say to myself, well, would you regret not doing this if you died? Or would you regret doing this if you died? Like literally the smallest little things. I'm like, well, what would Jodi say? Would I regret this? Won't I? We got to think about this a little bit more. It even comes down to if I don't get on the rowing machine, will I regret that? Yes, I will regret not getting on it. It's those
Yes,
little things every day. I'm like,
it
what would Jodi
is.
say? Forget what would Jesus do? What would
Yeah, you
Jodi
know what?
do?
It's a perfectly reasonable substitution. Yeah, Jesus. But like that regret question, I'm so glad you distilled it to that. Because like that to me is the shortcut to, in a life where, yeah, we like shortcuts. Let's make things efficient towards living lives worth living. Like that is the thing. Like so many times we have a ritual. My husband and I will walk before and after our workday. And I don't want to think about it. Don't ask me because I'll say no, but like we just go. But when he travels, oh, it's a shambles, right? Because I'm like I'm left alone to my own devices, which is, I could just stay in, But then I ask that question too. It's like, will I regret going? Well, no. Will I regret not going? Yes. And we always have to say it in that sucky kid voice because it's so true, but it helps us make better decisions. And like a little thing, like you just said, it's like a little thing about rowing, or like for me to go for a walk, a little thing. But if it helps us to enjoy that 20 or 30, or I don't know how long you row, maybe like a power
It was
rower,
10 minutes yesterday.
10 minutes, good 10 minutes for your heart.
I got a mile in and my husband's like, well, is a 10-minute road mile good? And I start Googling it and I go, well, Chuck Norris does it in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So I guess it's not very good. I don't remember. It was college when I rode last time. So I'm sure I
And
rode much faster back then.
that's so funny. And isn't it such a thing we do? We like to check, like, is that good? Like, is this what, am I competing? Am I normal? What?
Yeah.
We're all abnormal.
And Chuck Norris is like twice my age, but better shape. So
But he's Chuck Norris. Did you know he has a calendar that is hilarious?
no.
Okay, so I did one year for the holidays or for like the new year, I did a blog post on like ways to measure your life, obviously
Mm-hmm.
back to the
In
countdown.
the book, yeah.
And there's like the traditional 12-month calendar. And as always, I always want like the most ridiculous thing. And it of course came up, it fed itself to me on Google that there is like a 365 days of Chuck Norris. And I mean, I was like, how can we not all purchase this? So anyways,
I love it. And so
Chuck
speaking
Norris.
of time, I will share with you, nobody can see this because this isn't video, but I got an award for my book from Zibby Owens, and
Yes.
it's a hourglass, right? That's what this is called, right? Hourglass?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
on my desk. And so now it has a special new meaning. It's not just an award for the book, but it's my countdown, that you say we all need.
Oh, I love that so much. And right now I'm going to do the same thing with you. Hang on. It's a matter, I have so many of them, but look at this. Look at this pretty turquoise
Oh, that's
color.
pretty.
I love yours. Congratulations on the award,
Oh,
by the
thank
way.
you.
That's really profound. And I like now how that does have double meaning for you. I did just turn over the hourglass and I'm looking and it is creating an uncomfortable sense of urgency, which is exactly back to our point, is the oh shit of the countdown of life. But it's like, wait a minute, I'm missing all those grains of sand. What could I have been doing something in that time? Therein lies some pressure,
What were
right?
you doing before you got to this place in time? What has brought you, person who has not had this near-death experience,
Yes.
want to focus so much on dying and living every day to the utmost to ensure that we don't have regrets? Give us
Yeah.
this journey.
The journey would be, well, I worked corporately for 17 years and I wanted to make a change at the end in like the last 2 or 3 years, but I was so stuck and scared. I didn't know how to make the change. So therefore I just did nothing, which is like usually not a great strategy in life. It's like, oh, just again, I was settling, but I was waiting to be saved. Not recommended either. So in my discomfort, I ended up finding my way. I worked with a career coach and then I ended up doing leadership development and coaching. And it was one of those things where I was like helping other people love their lives, live in ways where they were making the most of their time. So I'd already had this history and experience of knowing that I didn't want to do that again, like sit in a situation that wasn't serving me, and then helping other people to live well. And then my mom went and died when she was only 58. And that's super young. And as I outlined in the book, my whole experience of her dying was more sad than I could have imagined because of this reason, because she died with so many regrets. And like she had business ideas, she had manuscripts that she didn't mail out because she didn't have the confidence. She had all these dreams that I call her place when she died, her apartment, it was like the land of dormant intentions. Like honest to God, it was where dreams went to die. And it was just the saddest, most, and here's the horrible emotion too, pity, like, oh, it woke me up in a way where, because, believe me, it resonated because it was like, oh, I'm looking in the mirror and I see my same tendencies. Like
Mm.
I am the one that also is inclined to dream and not do. And I know so many of us are because it's scary, right? Like I wanted to leave a job, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just stayed. Well, that's not, for me, the life that I would feel proud of at the end. I would feel proud instead now. I revised everything because that was one of the biggest sort of catapults to me of like, oh gosh, life's short. Yes. And let's not squander it. Let's get to the end and feel like we did it justice. Like my new way of looking at things that I don't find easy, but it's just true, is okay, I've got this little time left, 1,819, and I would rather take a shot at something and not be successful at it and experience those emotions than do what I'm inclined to do, which is play it safe, not take the risk, work around the goal that I would really love to have. But, oh, I can contrive my life. I spent many years contriving my life in a way to avoid any kind of risk or feelings of failure or rejection. So I could just do that and I don't feel rejection, but then I also feel like I lived a one-dimensional life that was flat. And that's not cool to me anymore. So that to me is now the sense of urgency. It's like let's do this, let's go for it, and let's play to win, not play not to lose.
I love it. And I love that you've built a business on it because people feel the same way. People are like,
I'm not
I don't want to
alone.
do this. Like, I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to have regrets. I want to live life. And I love the way you put it in the book because it's not like you don't have to go change your job. Like that doesn't
Yeah,
have to be the big thing. You could
yeah,
go sign up for a cooking class online. I like that you bring it down. So you go to Tuscany for a month, but if that doesn't work, maybe a week. And if that doesn't work, maybe a local cooking class. And if that doesn't work, just take an online class. Like
right,
we'll just break it all the
right.
way down for you.
To the most minutiae, or even maybe on the reprint I should indicate, or just look up a new recipe. Like
Just
what
go
if
on
you just
Pinterest.
picked something and you're like, I haven't cooked with curry in a while. What if I just found that? Okay, good. You know what? You're living a different life tonight if you're having a cool curry stew than if you just made your same freaking salmon and,
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah.
I love it, and I love
Yeah.
how you're in my head when you talk about the habits and the routines because and my son is so me, like, we get up at the same time, we have the same routine in the morning, we shower the same way, we take the
Mhm.
same route to school, and I know that that's stalker tendencies that somebody could come and kill us and all of that stuff, but it's really the only way to school, so,
Off the
of course
hook.
but then I have you in the back of my head going, "Okay, well, maybe I should like surprise them and take a different way home, or we should have ice cream on this day, or like these are the things that I'm now coming about
Yeah.
because of reading the book. And I'm already on that. Like I said, I already feel like I'm like the book is perfect. I'm already there, and yet I'm still getting more out of it.
Oh, I love hearing that. Thank you for saying that. And your examples are so spot on, right? Because like we have to make our lives efficient or else they'd go like cuckoo bananas in a faster hurry than they already are. So I get that we fall into these like things that make life easy, but all it does take is exactly what you're doing. It's like in this routinized thing I do, could I today like do something just to shake it up a little bit? Like this is get ready for like back to it's the silliest examples, but like these are our lives. Like it's just one freaking breakfast at a time that we live. I have a I have a pretty solid routine about my breakfast. And I know I talk about shaking up meals a lot, and I'm yet the worst at doing it. We bought bagels. I found gluten. I have to eat gluten free. It's my curse in life. And I found like decent enough looking gluten free bagels at Trader Joe's. And yesterday, the clouds parted. We had bagels for breakfast, and he was like, "There's a whole new way of living around here." And I'm like, "I don't want this every day because then it'll become a routine of its own. But like, I'm going to go back to my usual thing I do. But like, every now and then, I'm going to bagel it. Like, it's just the silly little things where when you just shake up your existence in small ways, and not that we have to do that with every little thing, because I do think that'd be exhausting too. And a lot of us need, some of us need more than others, like the feeling of structure and stability. That's fine. But I dare us, in the next week of life, pick one thing where we're just kind of in a little bit, let's just say there's like a very fine line between a groove and a rut. Like when you're in a groove with the way things are going, that's usually the precursor to then it's going to become ho hum. And by that point, you already have a foot in the grave of that way of living. So just, shake up the date night or shake up what you do on a Saturday and just see like, what's it like to go and take a walk in a different neighborhood? Like it's that simple. Get in the car, drive to a different neighborhood, walk around, and then maybe be glad to come home.
Yeah. I used to do that when I lived in different places and I was all by myself. I'd explore the city by driving around like aimlessly. And of course,
Oh,
this was before Google Maps. So
ooh,
in
brave girl.
Chicago, that was a little risky, but I made it. I'm here. And I found Harpo Studios on the way. So I was good.
Oh, I used to live right near there. That's so fun.
Really? I was in
Yeah.
Logan Square, Humboldt
Oh,
Boulevard.
oh, so cool. Logan Square
Yeah.
is so hip.
Now, yeah, it's even hipper now. I mean, that was like 20 years ago. So, but it was still cool. It was adorable.
Mhm.
One of the things that
Mhm.
I loved, and I'm going to try this tonight. So I will report to you tomorrow, is just switching where you sit at the dinner table. And I
Oh.
know that my kids are going to be like, "What in the hell are you doing? Why are we I'm going to switch us up." I'll let my husband sit where he sits, but the 3 of us will move around, and I know that they're going to be like, "What is going on?"
Yeah,
And yet they
yeah.
will think it's so cool.
It just does the world is off its axis.
Yeah.
Like, mom's gone crazy again, and it's delightful. Good example.
Because and it's so small, and yet they will think like, "This is so funny," and like, "What are you doing?" And, these are the things that you then flip it up a bit, and they'll remember it.
Well, I love how the what we're talking about are the little things, and clearly you picked up on that in the book. And like a lot of the times in this discussion about making the most of our time, we immediately default to this idea that it's about like big bucket list stuff and it's about making the large scale changes. And for some people, that is the way they want to make their life happen, right? Like they detonate, every 5 years and like get a totally new job and maybe a totally new wife or like whatever they do, whatever floats your boat. But I don't know, the rest of us, like it's just about the small, subtle things that making a choice to do something that brings you joy, for example, on a random Tuesday evening rather than the usual kind of routine. I did a blog post that it really seemed to resonate about, like, even stuff like we save the good stuff. And I think we've exchanged stuff on this,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, those are the good plates. Okay. Last I checked, like we get to be here and we're lucky enough. Like, why not have the good plates tonight? And maybe not every night because then they're not the good, like, but make them not the good plates. Make the fancy glasses or the special wine. Like, this is the celebration. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. There's a Henry David Thoreau line that if I had my wits about me, I could probably find it, about this idea about, like, there is no other land. Hang on. I'm going to read this because there is, all right. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this. So then he says, you must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment. I don't know, the idea, like, we're living life now. And like this notion about, like, oh, the celebration for, like, the good time is going to come later. Well, okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind us all, like, we might be dead by whenever the time's going to come to have the good wine. That's not likely, though. But why not stick up for your life today?
Oh, I like
Like,
that.
who's in charge of making sure that we're getting to enjoy today rather than just, that special occasion? Let's celebrate both.
There was another story in the book that, because yesterday was Memorial Day, it resonated beautifully, and I was telling my husband about it because we went to a Memorial Day ceremony of I don't know if he was a client, but he's in the book, and his brother died. I think it was Afghanistan, and how he says that if I don't live my life every day to the fullest, then what did he give his life for?
Yeah.
And that totally
Wow.
hit, especially yesterday. I read that before we went to this ceremony. I was like, yes.
I just got shivers again. That was new to me when I heard that gentleman, Scott Deluzio's his name. And upon talking to different people in the military since then, I've come to realize that that's a really common way of looking at their lives, because those around them in the military weren't so lucky. And it's like, I can't just sit around and squander my time, because if I do that, it does feel like it's a slap in the face to the person who wasn't so fortunate.
Yeah.
And I mean, back to this idea, like, it's disappointing as humans that we need some of those tension points to make decisions. And I'm like, my background is positive psychology, and it's all about, like, lean into abundance and our strengths and the good stuff. And like, oh yeah, do that for sure. Except the only thing about it is that it's just not totally effective. And like, like, again, another disappointment of humanity. Like, we need pain in order to take some action, or like some kind of like a thing, we're more motivated to avoid pain than pursue pleasure. So that's why I talk about the idea, like, we have to think about the fact that we're temporary. I do think we have to do the math, because that's that's the discomfort that will nudge us into making a decision. Like, I'm finally going to book that family trip, or I'm finally going to register for that course, or whatever it is. I'm finally going to start my podcast with your help, reading your book, like doing the things where we need we need to sit on tack sometimes to make the change we need to make. And back to the idea then about, we need sometimes that discomfort of thinking about, wow, am I squandering my life when other people could still be here living their life? Again, it's not a pleasurable discussion, but all I can say is, like, you can't deny that it helps lead to action.
I just imagine if everybody in this world listened, read the book, and started taking action, how different everything would be.
Oh,
How
wow.
absolutely different if everyone was taking action, if everyone spoke when they should, instead of being, tolerable. I'm going to tolerate it because if I don't tolerate it, then somebody might not like me. If everyone just, said, this is my one life, what would our
Yeah.
world look like?
This is such a fascinating thought experiment, because, well, my first instinct is that the airlines would do very well because everybody would be traveling. Like, the research about, like, bucket list stuff, like dreams we have that, we again think we're going to do later. Travel is one of the number one. like pursuing a big goal, like usually it's like starting a business, like a life goal, running a marathon, like something that feels like a big accomplishment that will take work to put time and effort
Mhm.
into, if everybody was just living on fire. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, I can't, like, it's just so exciting to me. And also, I think a lot of people would be leaving their jobs. A friend of mine is living in the States right now from Ukraine. And she shared that the number of people there who are leaving their jobs, and this is not necessarily in the most war torn areas, right? This is still in the relative safety. They're leaving their jobs and they are leaving dead end marriages in like droves.
Mm.
And it's one of those, oh, because they've all been threatened, right?
Mhm.
Like in a way that COVID
Right.
provided many of us that wake up call of like, wait a minute, I think I'm going to reshuffle my priorities. That same thing about many people. I'm not saying it's universal, but many people are just doing that. Like, I have life now I see is more precious than it ever was,
Mhm.
or at least my eyes have been open to it. And do I want to still be doing this thing or what do I want to be doing instead?
Yeah.
That, yeah, that wake up call. Yeah.
And you mentioned in the book, about money, and I had just had a conversation with a good close friend too, and the reason I bring up the money part is because you brought up the jobs, and I'm thinking, I live in Silicon Valley where there's just shit tons of money for whatever. And so people are making a lot of money. So would they actually leave their jobs? I bet a lot wouldn't because they like that money. But in the book, does money bring you happiness?
Yeah.
And I had a conversation recently with a friend who knows someone who has a lot of money. And she said that the fact is that people will always be whoever they were before they got the money. So if they were always cheap and just rude and whatever, the money doesn't change them. If they were always givers and, donated, and the money just enhances that. And
Yeah.
so, it's not going to change the people
Yeah.
whether you have a ton of money or not. It
Yes.
would change me in the fact that I'd be much more relaxed because I'd have my beach
Mhm.
house. But other than that, I'd still be the same person just living on the beach.
Yeah. And a mountain cabin. Yeah. Yeah. I like boiling it down to that is fascinating. Yeah. We are who we are. And we often do think that like the pursuit of happiness, because this is really the discussion, like how you started us off. Like it's not just about death, it's
Mhm.
really about life. That we want, like money could be a fast track to it. And or it's the security that we hold on to, like why we don't want to maybe make a change. Like the number of people that I know in workshops or used to work with one-on-one who would think, what I really want is to do this thing. Like it's like a different profession, but then it's, well, I can't leave my job. Like I've already spent 10 years here. Like I've built up credibility and like, well, I'm now like 3 levels up the ladder. And there's such a Western culture notion to a lot of that, right? It's like I've achieved things. I'm making money at this level. And not only like there's a perception like you would be ridiculous to go back to school for something totally different and be willing to start over almost as an intern again, when I'm supposed to be more mature in my career. And I'll just offer this to say, not that again, this is a recommendation today is like to blow everything up, because I actually have a different view on work where I do think that many of us maybe need to stop putting so much pressure on it to be the be all and end all for where we get that sense of joy in life
Yeah,
and maybe even meaning. But I would just say to the other example, like, why not? Because so many have done that. It's like if you're looking at your life again with that remaining Mondays kind of attitude, it's like, I can't afford not to find a way financially that won't kill us, and my family and put us out in a tent. But like, I can't afford not to go back to school, maybe get a student loan, take the course I want to take, graduate, start over again, but give myself a shot at joy. And then maybe like show my kids that, like, honey, this is how you pursue a life that you love, that maybe it doesn't have as many bells and whistles, or maybe it will after, if you, spend more time climbing the ladder again, you might just, surpass where you might have been. Who knows? But is that the point? The idea that is like, what is it you're actually doing with your time? Is that, are we evaluating that and saying, like, is that making me feel like I have vitality? Or does it feel like I'm actually kind of dead inside?
I love it. One of the words you use over and over, and I like it, I need to start incorporating it into my vocabulary, is agency.
Oh, yeah. a heavy hitter.
Yeah. Hit us with it. What's it mean for those who are
Yeah.
like, what is the agency? I thought it was just, what Business Michelle has, an agency.
Right, right. Yeah. And then it's like, well, in, the psychology concept is the sense that like we are in control. Like the locus of control is like within us. It's like we are the ones that have autonomy more than we even think we do to make choices in our lives that can lead to hopefully great outcomes. And a lot of the times we want, because it's back to that path of least resistance, it's more comfortable to sit back and actually even feel like a victim of circumstance. And there ain't no shortage of circumstances, right? Right? It could be like, well, I can't leave my job because, my husband's not willing to work much and all the reasons that, or I can't go and take this sketching class, because my kids are at home and I can't, find the babysitter or whatnot. Circumstances will definitely prevail, and I don't want to pretend they don't exist. There are obstacles for sure. But when you look at the broader concept of agency, that's this idea like a little bit of where there's a will, there's a way. But like we have a lot of choices that are still within our control that we can adjust the dials and the levers and say, does it mean, for example, saying no to more things? Like that's agency, is being able to say, I've kind of done this reflection and I realized volunteering for 35 hours didn't really float my boat. In fact, it poked some holes in my boat. And now my sense of agency is like, I get to be able to say no and I love the way you worded it. I've never heard somebody say it the way you said it before. Like, maybe I'm not going to be as liked. And for those pleasers of us listening, we're like, what do you mean? Not like, but that like the grand scheme of your dwindling life, wouldn't you rather be happy with those 35 hours than maybe have a shot at someone thinking that, oh, you're such a lovely contributor? You know what?
Yeah.
Does their opinion really? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love you. I don't know how we're already 40 minutes in. I'm like, oh, it'll be less than 30. It's no problem. But yeah, I just love you and want to drink wine with you and White Russians and all of the other cocktails you refer to in this lovely book.
I mean, really, it's a cocktail book is really what it is.
It is. It is. Every chapter has a different cocktail featured. It kind of coincides with my book on the dinner party. There's so many more things. Like we are meant to be BFFs.
I feel that. Yeah. I mean, we could just make this part one of 980.
I like
It's
that.
probably the best
Yeah.
way.
I was
Totally.
even like, okay, I know you have a house in Palm Desert. So when's the next time I need to go south? I was like,
Hey,
I'm going to come and be like, hi, I just want to pop in and say hello and meet in person.
make a trek. Oh, I'm off in here. Well, we're back to Chicago, either one. Yep.
Yeah, either one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Can you share with everyone where they can find you, where they can buy the book and all of the good stuff?
Oh, well, thank you for asking about that. I pretty much live in the internet at 4000mondays.com. I'm right in there. Like it's so cozy. 4000mondays.com. And there's a page there about the book, which will lead you to all the links wherever you want to buy or your local bookstore. You can ask them to get it. You only die once. Yeah. How to make it to the end with no regrets. And so, yeah, I mean, that is it. And just like one last plug for the Reaper, because like he's a ruthless MFer, but he's also our portal to the good life. So let's invite him over for cocktails.
Let's do it. I adore you, Jodi. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping every one of us, really get the reins on life. Like we need to live and
Oh,
to have a book that, we got to give a shout out to Adam Grant for, blurbing the book and then putting you on his summer read list. We knew he was genius. I'm glad he recognizes this too.
I love your words. Yeah. Now this is further evidence.
Yes.
That he's the real deal.
Yeah. He likes research and all that stuff. So I am just emphasizing, yes, this is further evidence that Adam Grant gets it. We all need to get it because we are going to die and we only get this one life and it's not morbid. Make the most of it. So thank you for emphasizing that and writing a book about it.
Oh, thank you for getting to chat with you about this juicy, fun, life-affirming topic.
Okay, who is ready to join me on making sure we live every single day to its fullest? I recorded an episode back on, I had to look at this, episode number 3 on why I love funerals. And the whole point of that episode was because at a funeral, you hear the amazing things that someone has done. You get to hear the stories of what this person was like. And yet you walk away going, man, I wish I'd known about this before. So start today doing those things. Get to know other people. Start talking to them. Figure out what it is that you want in life right now and stop waiting for tomorrow. Stop waiting for next week or next year and start asking yourself, as I've been asking myself, will I regret doing this or will I regret not doing this as you make these decisions? Do yourself a favor, go pick up You Only Die Once by Jodi Wellman and go calculate how many Mondays you have left, because once you see that number, you are going to take things more seriously, that you have this one life to live and you deserve to live it to its fullest to make sure that you are the happiest you possibly can be.